Can Russia's economy survive the devastating sanctions the United States and the European Union imposed? Is Russia's war chest of $631 billion enough to sustain it through the sanctions? And how are ordinary Russians living their lives amid sanctions? Did Russia choose a suitable economic model and implement ingenious policies? There are several questions about what would happen to Russia, especially its economy, if the war continues. The once communist Russian economy transformed into something that could only benefit Russian oligarchs. And what this has done to Russia now, during this precarious situation, will be evident soon. Can Russia's economy collapse? Well, there are several things you need to know. Since wealth is in the hands of a few oligarchs, corruption is ever lingering, and Russia depends heavily on its oil and gas sales. Where is all that taking Russia to? But the Russian ruble became one of the top performing currencies, and oil prices increased. Wouldn't it be beneficial for Russia? Let's uncover what flaws Russia's economy had, and still has, that cannot afford to continue the war. Once you know that, such an economy's future can also be predicted. And yes, the data from various sources hints that Russia soon has to give up. But before we continue further, give the video a like and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos like this one. Let's get started. Before communism and Marxist doctrine surfaced in Russia, this territory was ruled as an empire. The imperial powers had complete authority even after the Industrial Revolution launched in Europe. Millions of laborers were exploited and paid less than what they deserved. This was when Russia was waiting for a Marxist to emerge from the crowd and take the country's reins. Vladimir Lenin became that leader and vowed to make Russia a communist state. In this state, every person would work according to their abilities and get what they need. There won't be any exploitation by the wealthy and oligarchs. The idea seemed attractive to the lower class, and thus, Lenin was chosen as their sole leader. After Stalin, his successor, Joseph Stalin took over the country and vowed to make it a robust economy. One of the key features of his rule was using power. He confiscated all significant industries and announced them to be controlled by the state. However, the irony was that he forced laborers to work even more than they did during the capitalist industrial revolution. The only difference was that earlier, laborers were working for the rich, and now, they were working for their country. Uber-rich oligarchs, businessmen, and industrialists were forced to give up their wealth or flee to another country. All this brought fruit to the Soviet Union's economy. There was news around the world about how the Soviet Union emerged as one of the fastest growing economies. It had economic and military superiority, while the industries running inside the country presented a picture of prosperity. However, the internal conditions of the country were devastating. The Soviet Union was becoming prestigious by shifting the burden to ordinary working men. Capital invested in people's well-being was least, besides no proper planning for them. Houses were not enough, and standards of living sharply deteriorated. Several families were forced to live in communal apartments, while healthcare was universal. All this took the ordinary working class backward. The state itself was now exploiting the working class. The system was criticized by intellectuals who came to know that only the working class was being exploited. The USSR backed up the oligarchs and elite, creating resentment. Furthermore, the system's fall was rampant, since the essential elements of the system were ignored. The people, which are ignored to this date. Hence, in 1991, the fall of the Soviet Union happened, and Russia was set to adopt a new approach. The system was to privatize and adopt capitalism. Almost every industry was state-owned, and that needed to be changed. These industries were sold, not to Western businessmen, but to businessmen inside Russia. This was done to avoid any threat by the West. However, since the industries were sold to Russian businessmen, which didn't pay much, it didn't bring fruit as it was supposed to. In 1994, about 70% of Russia's economy was privatized, but a deadly tool was created that could result in the fall of Russia in the future: the oligarchs. Putin came into a political landslide in 1999 and relied on Russian oil to lift the economy. According to a famous Russian economist, Sergei Guriev, in the 10 years from 1999 to 2008, Russian GDP grew by 94%, and per capita GDP doubled. This is the most outstanding decade in modern Russian economic history. But with Putin came an elite class that would once again exploit and use the system to make their own wealth. This once again shifted the burden onto ordinary Russians. According to the Russian economist Sergei Guriev, the average annual growth rate from 2010 to 2019 was less than 2%. This was stagnation. From 2014 to 2018, money leaving Russia equaled $320 billion. This was the money taken away by the elite class investing in foreign countries. And this is the problem Russia still has. What they were earning in Russia was being flushed out in Western countries. This meant a collapse for Russia. Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014 resulted in sanctions. This gave another jerk to the already barely surviving Russian economy. By seeing Russia's entire history, it's clear that it went through some of the harshest times. However, it managed to settle just because it has vast oil and gas reservoirs. But this does not mean a safe option to rely on. Inequality, corruption, lack of policies, dependence on oil and gas, and prestige about invading other countries take Russia where it will be challenging to rise again. The recent invasion of Ukraine has put Russia, once again, on its back foot. The sanctions imposed are far worse. They could cause Russia's economy to collapse. However, since Russia makes most of its capital from oil and gas, its war chest of $631 billion in foreign currency reserves is extraordinary. But this is not enough for Russia to last if the war continues. The effects of the downfall are even visible now. Automobile and several other companies are shutting down their production in Russia and taking their factories away. This will leave millions of Russians unemployed. Furthermore, Russian stocks traded on the UK stock market have plummeted by 98%. This, in other words, would have vanished wealth worth $562 billion for Russia. This resulted in a domino effect, and everything started to crumble. In 2021, Russia was the world's 11th largest economy, with a GDP of $1.65 trillion. However, now, Russia is the world's 22nd largest economy, with a devaluation of 11 positions in a single year. Now, Russia's economy has become pathetic. Due to the war crisis going on, the country's become a fortress state, both politically and economically. The sanctions are hurting Russia's economy, while political instability is decreasing investments. In the future, a time might come when Russia will strictly be a fortress state, without any ties with any other country. Currently, it cannot sell its products in the international market and get an influx of money. Before Putin, Russia thought of becoming a technology-led economy and building its own Silicon Valley. If this had succeeded, Russia today would be freed from all threats to its economy. But no attention was paid to it that made Russia only rely upon oil and nothing else. And if oil drilling stops, the whole of Russia will stop. This could prove to be both a blessing and a devastation for Russia. If oil prices go up, Russia will be safe. But if they go down, there's nothing that can back up Russia and the economy. This is why Russia might be thinking about ending the ongoing war crisis, or perhaps it's already thinking about it. What do you think? Can Russia's economy survive and keep away from the collapse? Russia has become a fortress state with no substantial economic ties with any other country. Comment right below in the comment section. Can the Russian oil keep it floating? Also, if you loved the video, make sure to give it a like. And to watch more videos like this one, subscribe to our channel. Until the following video, stay tuned.